unless you are in no danger of getting the third layer of spikes as well. Preferably immediately, but, you know, in the near future, the next couple turns of the battle. That works as well. Now, obviously, this does not apply if you are at such a big advantage that you can just kind of do whatever you want and you're going to win anyway. I'm talking more about close games, and I wanted to finish that trailing off title right away, just in case anyone came in here and was wondering, wait, what do you mean 2 layers of spikes sucks? It's better than 1, obviously. Well, that's what this video is about. And plus, getting it out of the way immediately lets me laugh to myself whenever I see a comment that has clearly not watched the video yet, because I get it if the video is longer and it takes a while to make its point, but in this one it was answered right away. Anyway, so here's the basic argument before we get to the replay example, which was from a very recent high-level tournament game. So the basic idea is that the second layer of spikes is not a big enough upgrade over 1 layer of spikes to justify its use over another move, unless you can also get that third layer. Now, obviously, this is not always going to be the case. It is not a truism by any means. For example, 1 layer of spikes is out-healed by 2 rounds of leftovers. Sometimes you want that second layer of spikes to put a little more pressure on that. But the overall impact of the second spike is weaker. And thus you could generally, unless you're getting that third layer, but let's assume you're not, on that turn you get that second spike, you could be applying more pressure elsewhere, in another way. Like if you've got a Skarmory, a better move might be to Whirlwind, or to double switch if you're just going to get forced out and on that second layer. Like here's a classic example. Let's say it's a tight game and you've got your 1 layer with Skarmory and your opponent's going to switch to Zapdos and you know it. And what do? Do you go for that second layer of spikes when the Zapdos coming in threatens you greatly? No, you will get a lot more mileage by Toxicking or Whirlwinding or double switching, because the advantage given to you by that second layer of spikes is just not that big enough. It's not high impact enough. I realize I'm repeating myself here, but I really want to stress that. So the replay here, we got a T-Tar lead, Metagross forces it out, in comes Skarmory right away. Mashing again, trying to wear it down, spikes, nothing doing. Okay, second layer of spikes, Fakes is obviously going to get the third, and Star is going to get the second as well. Now, here's example number 1, right? So, he is expecting to get Whirlwinded, probably. So, he could, there's no reason to not just go for the second layer. If he's faster with his Skarmory, he could go for a Whirlwind himself, or a Roar. You know, I realize that nitpicking things on the internet is one of the great joys in life, but, you know, bear with me here, okay? When I say Whirlwind, and the Skarmory uses Roar, obviously I mean Roar. So, if it is a faster Skarmory, then you could very well argue, actually, I should just Roar here. And because the opposing Skarmory is either going to Whirlwind me itself, or there's going to be a switch to something like a Zapdos. And since Star is dealing with 3 layers of spikes early in the game, you know, it's, you know, already the first couple turns, he's already got a full set of hazards on his side, then you could very well make the argument, hey, I don't want to be, you know, treading water immediately when Zapdos or whatever switches in. If there is something to immediately threaten Skarmory like Zapdos or Moltres, it's probably coming in here, and I would like to scout that and Whirlwind and get more information on Fakes' team, you know, and you'll maybe spread some spikes damage on grounded Pokemon. You could also say, well, I also don't want to be Whirlwinded around myself by Skarmory. If the opposing Skarm is going to go for the Whirlwind there, and you say, well, rather than get dragged into my Metagross and lose more health and so on and so forth, I'm going to take the initiative, because 1 layer spikes is obviously not as good as 3, but you are not falling behind. You're not playing the game on Fakes' terms, because you're not letting him dictate the pace. And the upsides of those moves are arguably higher than that second layer of spikes, because again, the jump from 12.5 to 16.67 is, I believe, is what it is. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was a jump to like 18, right? That would be genuinely worthwhile. But 16, I mean, an extra not even 5%, like that's nothing. If you wanted to just throw the raw numbers at it, that's really not worthwhile. Again, in certain games, if you're like trying to wear down a Swampert or something, and you are really scrapping for every bit of leftovers denying chip damage you can get on it, then sure, if you can afford it. But again, it is a case of risk versus reward. Like, do I really need that second layer to wear down the Swampert, or would I be better off doing something else? Okay, so we already see the arguments for why Star could have, and we also don't know Star's team. A lot of it is team dependent. Like, if he's got a Claydol in the back, maybe he doesn't mind getting, facing a Zapdos early on, or getting Whirlwinded around, that kind of thing. But there are good arguments either way. Now, Star is going to go for the Spike. He's just going to try and match Fakes' hazard pressure. But here's what's interesting. Star is going to have a competent team, right? A competent team is going to be able to switch into one of the most prominent, dangerous moves in the game in Gengar's Will-O-Wisp, right? That's including with Spikes and Sandown. That is just part and parcel of the threat level of Gengar. It's not like Heracross, where you don't deal with Heracross and Spikes on the same team, pretty much. So, what's interesting here is we know Star has that switch in, but he is going to stay in, and, well, he's going to protect first, okay. But, if the Gengar is going to, he's not going to both get burned, and have his spikes denied. So, like, if Gengar wants to, taunt, if this Gengar even has taunt, that's far from a given on Gengar, but it's going to both need to have taunt and use it, and potentially blank into a switch in, like taunting a Blissey that's gonna want to, Ice Beam on the switch anyway, or a Pursuit T-Tar, which is way worse. You do not want to be taunting blindly, or even like a Gengar, or like a Claydol, or something, or like a defensive Zapdos. You do not want to be blindly taunting with a Gengar into an unknown opposing team. So, Will-O-Wisp is the move you want to be spamming. That's what makes Gengar dangerous. So, you're very likely not going to taunt. But, Will-O-Wisp is the safe move here, right? And even knowing this, now we don't know if Star has Aromatherapy or Heal Bell on his team, but most advanced teams don't, even, teams with Blissey and Celebi, because it's very hard to fit, so you just assume no. This would apply even if they didn't, which is going to be the case more often than not. Yeah, so Star is going to stay in and take this burn for the sake of getting that third layer, because Star is, knows as well as anyone else just how much of a difference that third layer is. I hope I'm remembering it correctly that it's 16.67 and not 18.75, because I think that's a much bigger difference. But no, I'm fairly sure it's 16.67, just because. Even like from a feeling standpoint, I remember whenever I get the second layer of spikes and like I see the damage it's being dealt to Swampert or whatever, it's never as impactful as you think the second layer of spikes is going to be. If you want to just take it from a pure intuition standpoint. But I'm doing that thing where like something I know very clearly is suddenly being doubted in my mind. Like, am I sure? Does Skarmory learn spikes? Stupid stuff like that. So yeah, he is going to take this burn and have to switch into Gengar again, now, or, he's going to switch into Gengar and have a burn Skarmory for his trouble, but this is an example. This is one of the best advanced players ever in a very important tournament. He's not just clicking whatever moves. He is, playing for, well, money, actually, but in addition to the prestige. But he knows just how important that third layer of spikes is, and he's like, yeah, I will let my Skarmory get burned in order to get that third layer of spikes. Then the game proceeds, and he can deal with that Will-O-Wisp spamming Gengar. I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen. And in comes T-Tar, and other stuff happens. And it does have Aromatherapy, So, you know, that helps for sure. But I think that even if this was not an Aromatherapy, and there's a Claydol too, so this is very well equipped. But even if you substitute this out for like any other Blissey set, or a team that does not, well, actually if it didn't have Claydol, it probably wouldn't have Metagross Meteor mashing the opposing Skarm repeatedly early on. But you could very well just have like a more standard Skarm setup, like Skarm, T-Tar, Swampert, Gengar, you know, Filler, you know, Arrow or Moltres or Zapdos or whatever. And if you are facing 3 layers of spikes early in the game, then that's a perfect example of, yeah, I am willing to get this. Pretty much, if you're willing to get Skarmory burned, or, you know, other things, like take a huge Thunderbolt from Zapdos, then it better be for that first spike or that 3rd spike. But you better have a really, really, really good reason for taking such moves for the 2nd spike. That better be, I have calculated every percentage, and I'm going to win this game with Arrow, but I need that 2nd spike on Swampert in order to make it happen. And I know that there are not better moves I could be making to further that end goal. You know, I need to know that even I could, you know, Whirlwind the Swampert in and threaten it with Toxic, or, you know, like, see, even then, like, you Whirlwind the Swampert in there, and then, you know, if it wants to heal the 2nd layer of spikes, it has to protect or attack, and that gives you your next 2 layers, like, even just that. And if it switches out, then look, you got 6% on it. And so I hope I made myself clear with that example. I'll repeat it just in case. And then that's pretty much all I have to say. But, like, let's say you have Skarm against Gengar, and then you want to, you know, get that 2nd layer of spikes in exchange for a burn. And instead, you might be better off just whirlwinding out to something else, because that might let you get the damage that you're looking for on Swampert or Tyranitar or whatever, and you'll get that 2nd layer of spikes, but you've also forced more damage. You'll get that 2nd layer of spikes anyway, because whatever you drag in, Skarm is probably going to spike on, because Skarm spikes on everything. You know, it's not like these teams that you're facing are going to be, you know, Will-O-Wisp Gengar plus 4 Pokemon that threaten Skarmory. It's very hard to make a team like that. And so you are going to get that 2nd layer of spikes anyway by virtue of whatever you Whirlwind in, but you do that while having a good chance of getting extra chip damage on Skarm or T-Tar or Blissey. You know, so you take the burn and you get the 2nd spike either way, but you also get more damage out of it. You know, and you potentially put the opponent in these kind of catch-22 situations where they're like, oh, well, I don't want Skarm to, I don't want Swampert to get worn down further, so I'm going to stay in, but if they switch out, then to, you know, heal off the spikes damage with the 2nd round of leftovers. But if they don't, which they're not going to want to in most cases, then, you know, then you get then you have successfully chipped them. So hopefully that makes sense, and that's pretty much everything from me on this regard. So let's just see how this game plays out. It's just Rest Suicune being insane, and 1 layer of spikes. See, like, this is a good situation to go for that 2nd spike. Actually, perfect, because you go for a 2nd spike here, and there's nothing else you really... I mean, actually, even here, man, you could argue, hey, I want to know what that last Pokemon is. I want to Whirlwind it in. But if you feel confident that it's like a Gengar or something, it's like, I don't want to switch into that. I mean, actually, you would be better off, if you think Gengar's coming in, you'd be better off Whirlwinding the Gengar, you know, out as it comes in and dragging more damage on Suicune and Blissey. But if you think... So this example works both ways, actually. It's wonderful. Since you can say, oh, well, you should Whirlwind to gain more, you know, lefties, or actually gain more lefties on the Seismic Toss and reveal more things and chip, you know, the Metagross and the Suicune, if that's how you want to do it. Or you could say, hey, Claydol's down, and this Blissey's probably going to stay in, which is, you know, more accurate to this game specifically. This team struggles to hurt Skarmory. Blissey, the only way Star is going to hurt my Skarm now is by staying in and Seismic Tossing, so I'm going to get layer number 2 and layer number 3 immediately. It's not going to be layer number 2 and then Whirlwind. You know, not even layer number 2 and then Protect. No, it's like, I want that 3rd layer. So, great example once again. So that's pretty much everything. Thank you for Yeah, see, now the roars really sting way more than they would with the 2 layers. So thank you so much for watching, and it's a Dugtrio, and we're just gonna finish this game. There's the boom, no taunt. There's roar. Oh, there's a oh, right. I know what happens. Yeah. Yeah. So Skarmory's drill pecking each other, but it's just a matter of time until Salamence does its thing, because the Suicune can't hurt it. So yeah, just gonna roar forever, and there's nothing to really be done. Okay, so thank you so much once again. And this Metagross doesn't even have EQ, so even if it lives. Yeah. Alright. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.